Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Thomas Gregory, and I'm the state coordinator for the Mississippi Main Street Association. We are so excited to have all of you here in Starkville, affectionately known as Mississippi's College Town, for Destination Downtown 2021. You know, we were supposed to be doing this a year ago, but COVID had different plans for all of us. I think one of the things that we've learned over the past year was how important human interaction is for all of us. And that's why we are so glad that we are able to be together this week, even while we are still taking plenty of precautionary measures to prevent the spread of COVID-19. On that note, I do want to make a few announcements about some of the decisions our team has made to keep you all as safe as possible over the next few days. First of all, we encourage everyone to wear a mask while indoors. You'll also notice hand sanitizer stations placed throughout the venue, and we encourage you to use those often. And as much as possible, we've tried to provide grab-and-go food options for you. The conference facility, you can see, has spaced chairs apart to provide for social distancing. I want to thank everybody for doing your part to take these precautions while enjoying being back together with friends and colleagues at Destination Downtown. This conference has been 2 years in the making, and I want to thank the staff of the Mississippi Main Street Association for all of their hard work. Jeannie Zirin is our Director of Communication and Marketing and has run point on all aspects of Destination Downtown for us. If you are here as an attendee, a speaker, a sponsor, or an exhibitor, you have no doubt heard from Jeannie over the past few weeks and months. Jennifer Lay is our Director of Community Development and is a Starkville resident, and she's been super helpful in making local connections and organizing the local tours here in town. And then there's Beth Rainey. Beth is our administrative assistant. She's the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain. She's provided support for all of us and has kept everyone and everything organized. Y'all know a conference of this scale takes a team effort, and I think that we've got the best team in the business. So y'all help me give a round of applause for Jeannie, Jennifer, and Beth. Also, as you know, this conference is a regional event, and I also want to thank the state coordinating staff from Arkansas and Louisiana. Greg Phillips in Arkansas and Ray Scriber in Louisiana have been a sounding board for us throughout the conference planning process, and we really appreciate their insight and moral support as we've navigated this road. Please help me thank Greg and Ray and their team members of their state coordinating programs. We all know how important it is for Main Street to have the support of elected officials at both the state and local level. So help me give a big thank you to the elected officials in the room today. And if you are an elected official, if you'll raise your hand high so we can recognize you and thank you for your support of Main Street. Thank you. I also want to thank our sponsors who are listed on page 4 of your program for their financial support of our conference. Those of you who plan events, and there are a lot of you in the room, you know how important sponsors are in hosting a successful conference. Our diamond sponsors are the Mississippi Development Authority and the Mississippi Hills National Heritage Area. Our gold sponsors are Main Street, Arkansas, Louisiana Main Street, Starkville Main Street, and Mississippi State University. Silver sponsors include Belinda Stewart Architects, Clark Beverage, PPM Consultants, the Mississippi Arts Commission, Renaissance Community Loan Fund, the Retail Coach, Scotty's Wine and Spirits, and Struthers Recreation. And our bronze sponsors are Artificial Ice Events, Broadcast Media Group, Cathead Distillery, The Cellars, Columbus Main Street, Downtown Strategies, Fall Fest Events, Mississippi SBDC, Mitchell Distributing, Neil Shaper, Orion Planning and Design, Trustmark Bank, and West Point Main Street. Please note also we failed to include the logo for Orion Planning and Design in our conference program. We sincerely apologize for this oversight, but we're very thankful for the support of Bob Barber and his team at Orion Planning as a bronze sponsor of Destination Downtown. Y'all please give a round of applause for our conference sponsors. Want to make a note that Destination Downtown is eligible for continuing education credits for members of the American Institute of Architects, the American Institute of Certified Planners, and the Mississippi Municipal League. AIA eligible sessions will have sign-in sheets in each of those sessions. AICP certified planners can find our conference on MyAPA by searching for Destination Downtown. And Mississippi elected officials, y'all please sign in at the registration desk to receive CMO credit from MML. We've got a really great agenda for the next 2 days, and I want to highlight just a few things for you first. We've followed Louisiana's lead from their conference in Hammond, and we'll be providing adult beverage breaks each morning, sponsored by Cathead Vodka. We've got screwdrivers today and Bloody Marys tomorrow. Arkansas, y'all take note that this is now a Destination Downtown tradition, and please plan accordingly for next year. Please note also that the Partnership Development and Coalitions session that was scheduled for this morning has been canceled, but we are pleased to have 3 other great sessions for y'all to choose from. Tonight's event is scheduled to be held in downtown Starkville, but we are monitoring the weather for rain, and if we end up executing our rain plan, we will email you about our plan. It will be held here in the Grand Ballroom, but y'all will get an email from us at some point this afternoon once we make that decision. Y'all keep your fingers crossed for the rain to dry up. Also, y'all probably have already seen we've got 19 exhibitors set up in the hallway, each of which offer great products and services for local Main Street programs. So I encourage each of you to visit with them and make sure you submit your name for the door prizes that they're giving away. We will be giving those out following the closing plenary tomorrow. Getting around Starkville is super easy thanks to the Smart Shuttle that has a stop in the circle right behind the conference center. The nearest stop for the downtown shuttle is in the Cotton District, so y'all make use of this wonderful free service if you don't want to drive around town. Also, there are some dining guides that are at the check-in desk. Starkville has a lot of really great restaurant opportunities, so y'all make use of that as you plan your lunch and dinner decisions. We've also created some really cool t-shirts that are available for purchase online through this Sunday. There's a QR code at the registration desk, and there's one in your conference program on page 8. If you scan that, it'll take you to our online web store. These are only available for purchase online and only available until Sunday. Once that closes, the opportunity is gone. So don't forget to purchase your t-shirts before you leave, and after purchase, they'll be screen printed and mailed directly to your door. Now on with the program. So we are privileged to have with us this morning the president of Mississippi State University, Dr. Mark Keenum. For the past 12 years, Dr. Keenum has worked closely with the city of Starkville and with Starkville Main Street to facilitate a strong town and gown partnership here in Starkville, much of which you'll get to experience during the conference. Y'all please join me in welcoming to the podium Dr. Mark Keenum.
All right. Thank you very much, Thomas, and welcome Destination Downtown to Stark Vegas, to this wonderful, wonderful city and home of Mississippi State University. My hometown. When I tell people that Starkville is my hometown, they just assume, oh, well, that's where you live. And it is, and I'm proud to live here in this community. But this is my home where I was born. I was born here 60 years ago, right downtown, in the old Felix Long Memorial Hospital, which is no longer there. It's now the home to the Mississippi State University Extension Service here for Oktibbeha County. That's where I came into this world. So I'm proud of my roots, and I'm proud to be here. I'm proud to be raising my 4 teenage children here in this beautiful, wonderful community. And I'm proud of the relationship, as Thomas mentioned, about what this university does in partnership with our city leaders, our county leaders, and we take great pride in the relationship that we enjoy here. I understand that having a strong, robust, thriving community is great for Mississippi State. And having a great, robust, growing, thriving university is great for this community. We go hand in hand. And I'm very proud, again, of the relationship, the partnerships that we have. And we work at that. We have to work at that and take it very seriously. I've been blessed to have worked now with 3 different mayors and administrations. And the mayor we have today, and Lynn Spruill, is truly outstanding, visionary, and understands that what's good for Starkville is good for the university and vice versa. In fact, we have a standing meeting once a month. Myself, Mayor Spruill, the head of our business community, our partnership as we call it, Mike Taggart, and the president of our County Board of Supervisors this year serving is Joe Williams. We get together every single month to talk about what's happening in the county and the business community, the city, and of course the university, and how we can work together and support one another in helping our collective community do well, communicating, cooperating, working together. That's what it's about to be successful. And I know all of you leaders across our state, we're blessed to have you here, and from our friends from Louisiana and Arkansas. I know many of you are doing these very same things in your communities. But we do focus on downtown. And I think some of you may have had an opportunity to come visit our storefront that we have, the Mississippi State University Idea Shop. It's also a maker space for our students. From our outstanding entrepreneurship and outreach center that's on our campus, we've outgrown that space there, and now we have a space downtown, and it's a storefront where our students can sell the products that they make through entrepreneurship. Jeffrey Rupp, who's our outstanding director of this program, you'll be hearing more from him later this morning. He's also a city leader. He serves as an alderman on our city council. Again, tying our university to leadership in this community. Our university is the owner of an innovation hub right downtown on Main Street. It's 33,000 square foot office building that we acquired. It was a former bank, Cadence Bank. We bought that building, and we've converted it into office space for businesses and companies to have world-class office space right downtown Starkville. We also entered into a public-private partnership with the developer to build an apartment complex in the city of Starkville for our students. It's a beautiful apartment complex. Again, public-private partnership, cooperating with our city to help us accommodate this. We acquired some land right across the street from this apartment complex. It's on a street called College View in the city, runs parallel to Main Street, University Drive, and we went out and secured funding to build a street to connect College View Street up to Main Street, University Drive, to allow for easy transportation between our campus and downtown. And, of course, pedestrian sidewalks all lit up with cameras for security for all of our students and everyone who will be using that wonderful new thoroughfare that we help secure for the city. In this very building that you're in, the MSU Mill, we're very proud of this convention center. This is a 119-year-old building. I know we have some officials here from various departments of Archives and History. Well, we had to partner with our Mississippi Department of Archives and History to renovate this building that was originally built in 1902 to be a cotton mill, to manufacture cotton textile products that were shipped all around the world. In fact, it was one of the few buildings in 1902 that had electricity. And the story goes that people in Starkville would get in their horse and buggy and ride out here at night to look at this building all illuminated by electricity. It was the thing to go do back in 1902. And it operated for over 60 years here in this community. And then the university acquired this building around mid-1960s. And when the university acquired this building, it converted it into a physical plant. This building is where all of our electricians and carpenters and metal workers and all the people that support the maintenance, upkeep of our university and all of their supplies. This was the lumber room where you're sitting right here. This building was just full of lumber in a carpentry shop right here where you're sitting. And it operated like that for, well, over 50 years. But we've had a vision that we needed a convention center here in Starkville for a major research university like Mississippi State. And so we started the process through public-private partnership with a developer, and then looking at the governor and state tax credits and CDBG grant monies at the federal level, working with our city leadership to help us build a parking garage. And a lot of people had to come to the table to make something like this a reality. Again, public-private partnership. And we were thrilled that in the fall of 2015, right over in that corner, of this room, we had a big ribbon cutting ceremony with our governor at the time, Phil Bryant, to celebrate this beautiful convention center and office building that has really become a hub for this city. The street right out here adjoining it, Russell Street, it has transformed as a result of this. Doing things in the downtown centers of your communities can have huge ripple effects across your entire community, your entire county, to help magnify and attract those to come be part of your communities. And that's what we're doing here. Again, university, city, county, our business community, all working together in tandem for the well-being of everyone in this community to serve one another. And that's what it's about, serving one another. And I could not be more blessed to have wonderful partners to work with to make great things happen right here in Starkville, Mississippi. And I wish that for all of you. In fact, for those of you from Mississippi, you may be familiar with our Fred Carl Small Town Center that we have here at Mississippi State. We're a land-grant university, and we believe in serving and helping others throughout our state. Our Fred Carl Small Town Center is housed in our College of Architecture, Art, and Design. And literally teams of our professionals will go out into communities all throughout our state as requested to work with leadership in those communities on how, and give advice on how to improve your downtowns. And that's what we're here to do, to serve and to help you write grants, give you ideas for grants that you might could pursue to help improve your community. So don't forget, Fred Carl, Small Town Center, Mississippi State University. We're here to help you and to serve your communities. For those of you in Arkansas and Louisiana, I'm sorry. We can only go as far as the state line. But hopefully your universities are there to help you well. So good luck in your endeavors to all of you. Again, thank you for coming to this beautiful community and part of our, again, this wonderful university town of Starkville. May God bless all of you. And as we like to say here in Starkville, Hail State. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Keenum, for being with us this morning. Next, I'd like to introduce you to Paige Watson. Paige is the director of the Starkville Main Street program, which is our local host organization for Destination Downtown. Y'all help me welcome Paige to the podium for a few remarks.
Thank you, everyone. Good morning. We are so honored to have each and every one of you here today. I know it didn't work out last year, but it kind of worked better in our favor because now you're in Starkville, home of the national champions. So Hail State again for that. But just again, want to thank the Mississippi Main Street staff, our staff at the partnership, and everyone who made this event possible. We hope you really enjoy your time here. Eat, shop, play, stay longer if you want to. It was a great day yesterday. Looking forward to today, tonight, and tomorrow. So just again, thank you for being here and welcome to Starkville. Thank you.
All right. Next up, we are pleased to have the mayor of Starkville with us this morning. Mayor Lynn Spruill is in her second term and has been a true champion for Main Street here in Starkville, so much so that she was awarded the Main Street Hero Award at Mississippi's most recent annual awards luncheon. Y'all please join me in welcoming Mayor Lynn Spruill.
Good morning, everyone. So nice to have y'all in town. I love this. And everything that Dr. Keenum said, let me echo it 100%. It is a partnership of which I am incredibly proud and pleased that we can do what we do. And so he gave you a marvelous overview of how we work together. And I know I saw some of y'all downtown yesterday enjoying some gelato, I believe. And that was really special in the Idea Shop. So that was great too. Happy to have you in town. I'm looking forward to being a part of the program, meeting some folks, Arkansas, Louisiana. I know I met a lady from Alabama, so there's another state here hanging around somewhere. Glad to have you in town as well. I think you're going to have a wonderful time while you're here. Starkville welcomes people. I'm so excited. I broke out my suspenders. I haven't had these on in ages, and it's party time, right? It's good to go. And I understand we'll have some beverages at the break. More party time? That's cool. That's cool. We are so delighted to have you in town. If there is absolutely anything I can do as the mayor or just as a person who loves this community, I grew up here. I had no idea that Dr. Keenum and I were both born in Felix Long, and I'm a good bit older than he is, so that hospital's been around for a very long time. And as you have wandered up and down Main Street, you can see that we merge together, and one of the things, and Jeffrey and I have talked about it any number of times, is that this is a seamless thing. From the time you leave, we've got a mural. Hopefully you've seen that. If not, it's a really neat mural, and it's City Hall to Lee Hall. We're all in this together. And so as you go from City Hall and you walk down Main Street, turns into University Drive, ends up at the campus, hopefully that is a seamless transition. We want lots of things to be going on all throughout that stroll that you would have, so that activities, food, shopping, all the things that you want to have in your Main Street and in your downtown corridor. And we're looking at expanding that. And the more and the better we are at bringing people downtown, the more important it is for us as a community to focus and to share that concept. One of the things we're also wanting to do is expand our downtown. We have a wonderful build grant that's going to take 182 and make it bigger, better, and more pedestrian friendly, and it will flow into the downtown, down and up. And if you weren't in Starkville's downtown area last night when it got dark, we have wonderful lights that the Carl Small Town Center helped us plan and install. And lighting makes such an incredible difference in your community as you light your streets up and you light overhead areas. Makes people want to be there. That and landscaping. There are just so many elements that you can make your town special. And it doesn't take a lot. Well, it does take money, you know, that it goes. But, you know, it doesn't take a lot in some cases, just little touches here and there. And so we are very, very pleased to have you come enjoy our community. Come back anytime. We love visitors. It is Stark Vegas. It's Stark Vegas when it's the athletic time. It's Stark Vegas in the evening. Jeffrey will play some music. I think he did last night for you, so he makes it even more of a Stark Vegas kind of place. And I think we may have a harmonica going here in a minute or two. Just for fun. Y'all have a great time while you're here, and I'm delighted to have you in town. Welcome to Starkville and Stark Vegas. Thank you.
All right. Next, I am honored to introduce our keynote speakers for the opening plenary, and then I'll turn the program over to them. Marshall Ramsey is the editor-at-large for Mississippi Today, a nonprofit news website. He is an accomplished editorial cartoonist and a two-time Pulitzer finalist, and his work is nationally syndicated by Creators Syndicate. His cartoons have appeared in the New York Times, USA Today, and the Clarion Ledger. He is the author of several successful books, including 3 cartoon collections, 2 short story collections, and the delightful children's book, Banjo's Dream. Marshall's cartoons, photos, stories, and posts are frequently shared on social media, and he is also the host of the weekly statewide radio program, Now You're Talking with Marshall Ramsey, and the television program Conversations on Mississippi Public Broadcasting. He has appeared on Fox and Friends, Inside Edition, CBS News, and CNN New Day. I should also note that I am personally a big fan of Marshall's work. Next is Jeffrey Rupp. He is the Director of Outreach and Corporate Engagement for the College of Business at Mississippi State University. As Director of Outreach, Jeffrey is the connective tissue between the College of Business and the business community. He facilitates research projects for businesses using teams of MBA students. Clients range from large corporations such as Yokohama Tire and C-Spire to small mom-and-pop startups. Jeffrey also works with more than 100 student entrepreneurs at the Center for Entrepreneurship and Outreach. Jeffrey was recently elected to the Board of Aldermen here in Starkville, and before coming to Mississippi State, he was twice elected the mayor of Columbus, Mississippi. Y'all please help me welcome Marshall Ramsey, who is going to come out first, and then Jeffrey Rupp will be out in just a few minutes.
I'm really nervous right now. I got to admit to you, this is like the third time in 2 years I've spoken in front of human beings. Normally I Zoom all the time, and it's gotten to the point now where my dog is talking back to me. So it is so nice to be out of the house. You don't know it. Once again, all the public officials, please raise your hand again. Hang on, I want to get your picture just so I can use you for cartoons in the future there a little bit. Now, I'm going to tell you a couple quick stories, and then I'm going to bring the real rock star up on the stage, and we're going to have a conversation that we've actually practiced. I interviewed Jeffrey for my Mississippi Story segment I do every week for Mississippi Today, and that will appear on Sunday. So actually, we've already had this conversation, but it's going to be in the future, if you can get your head around that a little bit. But I tell you, I am not a Mississippian by birth. I am one by choice. I have lived in Mississippi for 25 years, which that went by very quickly. I thought I was going to be in Mississippi for 2 years, and well, here I am. But what I am is the father of 3 boys who are Mississippians by birth. And you know, the day that the first child was born, I went from being a cartoonist to being somebody who is completely passionate about making this state a better place. And it's just totally different when you have the kids and you want them to be able to stick around and want to stay around so that your wife can have grandchildren and you don't have to drive to fly to some other city to go see your grandchildren. Thankfully, my 14-year-old does not have grandchildren at this point. You never know about him, though. Anyway. This is the official Starkville debut of this cartoon, so I just thought for the Mississippi State fans in here, enjoy, rejoice. All right, so you may not recognize this cartoon, but this was probably the most famous cartoon that I've ever done. It's when Barbara Bush passed away. And when Barbara Bush was ill and they announced that she had COPD and they were taking away her treatment, my mother had just passed away from the same disease. So I knew that she wasn't long for the world. And I thought about her life. She had everything, wealth, power, a platform, pearls, you named it, she had it. But she had suffered the worst loss that any parent could possibly suffer. She'd lost a child. Their daughter, Robin, had leukemia in the 1950s, and as you can imagine, technology and science was not far enough to be able to save that little girl. And what I did not know was at the time I came up with this idea, George W. Bush was sitting by his mother's bedside, and they were talking about Robin. So I had caught lightning in the bottle and didn't realize it. No other cartoonist touched on this idea. This was the cartoon that ended up being. I flipped it around because, honestly, I just wanted to get Barbara's face in there, and I put Mama on there because I figured, would she recognize somebody with white hair and pearls as her mother? You never know these things. So I haven't been to heaven lately. Some people say I'm not going there, but, just wanted to make sure. Well, this happened about 2 hours after it published. Jenna Hager, who is, of course, Barbara Bush's granddaughter, George W. Bush's daughter, who's on the Today Show, posted on Instagram. It originally said, someone sent this to me, I don't know the artist, but I love her. For 2 hours, I was a woman. It was great. My wife was like, you now understand what we go through. Thank you. But switch it back. And if you can see already, 120,000 likes on Instagram. It was going viral. And I was so touched that the family liked it. Jeb Bush Jr., who I didn't even know existed, talk about low energy, he liked it too, so that was great. I was very happy. Then I get a call from the Today Show. How many of y'all get calls from the Today Show? I don't get calls from the Today Show. And they said, Mr. Ramsey, can we use your cartoon on our platforms? And that's a nice way of saying, can we use your cartoon for free? And I said, sure, because the family liked it. I was touched. That was great. So they did that. But what I didn't know was the next morning, how was it for those of you who still have the kids in the house, getting out of our house every day is like D-Day, literally. If you're not out by 7 o'clock, there's gnashing of teeth and tears. It is ugly. Well, as you know, this Today Show comes on at 7 o'clock. There are tears and gnashing of teeth. But we stop when we see that Jenna's talking about Barbara Bush. And at the very end, they show my cartoon, and it started. My phone starts going off. Savannah Guthrie's going, oh, that Marshall Ramsey is the most sweetest, sensitive man in the world. And my wife's going, that's the biggest crock I've ever heard in my life. It literally went boom at that point, and it was just insane. Here's Savannah right here. Faith and motherhood and love. I now represent faith and motherhood and love. A lot of my ex-girlfriends didn't see that one coming, okay? Nobody saw that one coming. Jenna right here, this image was such a comfort. Like I said, I caught lightning in a bottle. It was really wonderful that it made a difference to the family. That was great. I had to go home and cut my grass and clean my house when Southern Living picked it up. I was like, that's crazy. Then you got Savannah, Guthrie, and Brett Baer. So I had gotten NBC News and Fox News to agree on something. Thank you. Nobel Peace Prize right here. Thank you. My university, the one that just figured out where I was after 25 years, they were happy for me too. That was great. I guess somehow they thought there was money involved with that. I know, I'm just kidding. I know, Mark, y'all don't do stuff like that, so just kidding. It was neat. This is what made it special, and this is the thing I want to throw out to all of you, because you all make a difference in people's lives every single day. We're all artists. And before you look at me and say, I don't know, cartoon boy, I can't draw a stick figure. I can't really draw stick figures real well either. I can't draw a straight line. That's why they make rulers. But we all start out with a blank canvas every single day. When we woke up this morning, we had a blank canvas. And our attitudes, well, I have to always remember this. Sorry, it's early. Attitudes are literally the brush strokes and the colors that we put on there. The effort we make are the brush strokes. But anyway, we have a chance to change somebody's life. And the reason I say this is because I started getting phone calls and emails from people who had lost children. And they didn't just say, Marshall, your cartoon meant a lot to me, which would have been wonderful. They told me their story, and I listened. That cartoon, maybe one out of, I've done 7,000 cartoons. Most of them are sarcastic and they're not great, you know. But that cartoon made a difference in a bunch of people's lives. Y'all have that same capability every single day. And the thing that's so weird about this whole thing about making a difference in other people's lives is we don't even know we're doing it half the time. You know, the guy cut off in traffic on 182 and made him go off into the ditch. He didn't know I was going to change his life this morning. It really did work out really well. But, I mean, read those stories, and they were so powerful. George W. Bush died. My wife woke me up and said, George H.W. Bush. W's still alive last time I checked. But, you know, the day's young, you never know. But she said, the president's died. And I said, oh, George Bush is young. And she said, no, H.W. Bush. And so I drew this cartoon. By 2 o'clock in the morning, Brett Baer's talking about it. Next morning, I'm on the phone with Fox and Friends. 2 days later, CNN sends a car to my house. I'm like, I live in Jackson, Mississippi. I don't need a car, okay? I might hit a deer on the way to the place, but I don't need a car. And they said, no, we'll send a car. And my wife's like, they're sending a car. So at 4:30 in the morning, a car shows up at my house, and it was a limo SUV. Guy comes out with a hat, opens up the door, and there's snacks. I mean, this is awesome. And I'm sitting down, and he said, Mr. Ramsey, is there anything I can do for you? I said, yeah, lay on the horn. I want my neighbors to see this. This is incredible. So I'm sitting in a little green room. I'm sitting there talking to CNN, and which was really scary for about 6 minutes about the cartoon and everything. And I got to speak in the Presidential Library. That was really neat, too. The bottom line is I'm just leaving with you there that you can do that. You can make a difference. Tell you another quick story, and then I'm going to have the rock star come up here and join me on the stage. That's my dad. That's Dave Ramsey. How many of you have heard of Dave Ramsey? He's named after that guy right there, okay? The guy with no hair that tells you to buy whole life insurance and lease a car, that's my cousin, okay? And my son. Yeah, people are like, is Dave Ramsey related to you? I said, yeah, he's my dad, my cousin, my son. And they're like, oh, that's right, you're from East Tennessee. It's like, okay, I get that. It's like, oh, no. But that's my dad. My dad loved to water ski. This is him skiing at 48. He was having a good time here. And here's him skiing at 78. Yeah, he was awesome. He really was. He was a big kid. I love this guy. And he wanted me to have that same joy with him and ski. And so one day out on the Tennessee River in Knoxville, Tennessee, he threw me into the water and said, you ain't getting out till you get up. And I was like, what? He said, no, this is how I train. I was like, okay, this was not a Karate Kid wax on, wax off thing. There was no kindness involved. So for about 8 hours, he dragged me up and down the river, and I wasn't smart enough to let go of the rope. So I was drinking a lot of water. And he finally said, look, you get one shot at this. If you get back up, we'll ski. And if you don't, we'll do this again tomorrow. It's like, okay. And I was determined. I was determined to succeed because I wanted to let this guy down. I love my dad. He was great. So do it, guns it. Mr. Ramsey pops up. And it just surprises him as much as it does me. And we're going along, and I'm back there in the back. You know, you get in between the wake there where it's safe and everything. And my dad's like thinking, I'm bored. Because that was my problem with my dad. My dad, I was 8 and he was 40, but he was really 8 and I was 40. And so he turns the boat as tight as he can turn it to sling me outside the wake. And he's doing 25 miles an hour and I'm doing 725 miles an hour. And then this happens. That is not a sea monster or an alligator or, well, never mind. That is a log. And this is very similar. This is pretty close to where it actually happened. I took this a couple years ago when I was out on the lake. I hit a stick. And I was going really fast, and that stick wasn't. And I did 7 cartwheels, and the ski hit me in the back of the head. I hit it like concrete, man. I was like half out laying there. Ski vest was doing its job. That was good. Dad, being the caring, loving man that he is, pulls the boat around, and then he does this. Oh, that's me falling, actually. That's another image there. He pokes me with a paddle. And I'm laying there, and I'm feeling this boom, boom, boom. And I was like, what are you doing? And he said, get up. It's like, no, I'm in the water. He said, no, grab the rope. And I said, no, you tried to kill me. I'm not going to do this again. He said, grab the rope. And I said, no, I'm swimming back. He said, it's 5 miles. You can't swim that far. I said, no. And he said, grab the rope. And I said, you give me one good reason why I should grab that rope. And he said, because we're going to make your story about how you got back up, not how you fell down. Now, I'm going to tell everybody how you fell down because that's the funniest thing I've ever seen, you know. But he said, grab the rope. And so I grabbed the rope. He gunned it. I got back up. And I've been skiing ever since. That's me when I was 18 years old. I don't look like that anymore. I'm not blurry, you know. The funny thing is, I don't know what possessed, my mother took this picture. I don't know what possessed her to use black and white film, but my children already think I'm old, you know, so it's like, thanks. My son was like, Dad, you were ripped. I'm like, thanks. I tell you this story, and this is just something to remember. We're going through a crazy time right now. You know, remember the commercials we had last year for about 2 weeks? These are at whatever time. You know, just like, shut up. I don't want to hear that. But these are tough times. People have kind of lost their minds right now. I mean, their filters are gone. They're angry. They're upset. We've all lost something. Every single one of us has lost something. 25 years after I fell, I'm laying in the hospital. I just had cancer surgery. Had a good chunk of my side cut out. I'm okay. I've been cancer-free for 20 years. I'm laying there. I had malignant melanoma. 3 doctors had missed it. It's a God thing that I'm alive. I'm very blessed, and I know it. And I'm laying there, and I feel this pressure against my forehead, very similar to that paddle. And I open my eyes, and I look up through the haze of painkillers, and there's my dad poking me in the forehead with his big fat finger. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he said, get up. I said, Dad, I just had cancer surgery. I can't get out of bed. He said, get up. I'll help you. And the man picked me up out of bed. And I said, why are we doing this? He said, because we're going to make your story about how you got back up and beat cancer, not how you laid there and had cancer. My dad gave me the greatest gift he's ever given me. And I didn't really, truly realize that until I was at his eulogy and I was telling that same story about the water skiing, that truly is the superpower that we all possess. You may think these are hard times. I mean, the economy's crazy. You don't know what's going to go on. The virus, we may be to the kumquat variant at this point. I have no idea, you know, or the omega variant or whatever variant we are at this point. But, you know, we have the power inside of us to reframe the situation and make it better. And I've got the honor to introduce and bring up, as he's been introduced so wonderfully so far, and I've had the chance to have this conversation with him, Jeffrey Rupp, who I got to talk to him the other day. I want to be him when I grow up because he plays guitar and I just play harmonica, and honestly, you just can't get women playing harmonica or drawing cartoons. I can tell you the two things. Now I don't need them because I'm 30 years into marriage and I would end up getting killed. Come on up on the stage. Everybody, a big hand for Jeffrey Rupp. You can switch over to your PowerPoint.
Yeah, I've also turned this mic on. It's a little hot, so I don't know if they can turn that down.
Yeah, let's stay real close to each other, make a real high-pitched scream, and then everybody would really want that vodka here in a few minutes. Okay, I'm going to go
Can they adjust that mic? If not, I'll just have to turn it on. Is that all right?
Yeah, no problem.
Well, I don't know how your day is going, but having to follow Marshall Ramsey pretty much is going to be tough to do. I suggest we hit the screwdriver break first and then come back and we'll go through what I have to say. I'd like to welcome everyone here. It was, like I said, I started my day, I got up, I went to the gym, had some coffee, came here. First, I had to listen to my boss, Dr. Keenum, get up and talk, then my other boss, Mayor Spruill, get up and talk, and then Paige, who thinks she's my boss, get up and talk, and then I got to follow Marshall. Jeez.
Who I'm not his boss.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm the Director of Outreach at Mississippi State. The former mayor of Columbus, and as I told a group yesterday, that's kind of like being a convict. You never get rid of the title. And now I serve as an alderman as well. I am not from Mississippi. I'm from Pennsylvania. I went to Temple University. My parents were all public school educators. I quit college to chase a record deal, and I found out after 2 years there were 100 guitar players who were as good as me, and then there were 10,000 who were better. But it was a great 2 years, and it was fun, and I went back to school and promised my folks I'd take the first job that was offered, and it was at doing the news at WTVA. So I was in the TV news business for 15 years until high definition ruined my career. So that's where I am now. So at any rate, my role at the university is to be the connective tissue, as you mentioned, with communities. And my experience as mayor makes me realize, and I said this yesterday, that it doesn't take a village to raise a child, it takes a village to raise a village, right? We all do this together, and we have to use the assets we have in our community. I was incredibly proud that when I was in Columbus, we were the Main Street Community of the Year. I don't know if that's the exact title, but what do they call that? Yeah. And had it not been for the efforts of Main Street and the ladies who put the flowers out and volunteered to do all that, our community wouldn't be what it was. So we really have to do it together. So in my role at the university, several years ago, we were trying to figure out how do we leverage what we do at Mississippi State for the city of Starkville. When I was in Columbus, it was all about the Air Force Base, and we went through base closure, and we were really focused on keeping the base. It was $370 million a year, I think, local economic impact the last year I was there. So what we decided to do with our student startups was to, instead of sending them out to our research park, which is a fancy way of saying buildings in a field, young people don't want to be there. They want to be downtown. How's it going? Okay.
I'm sure you're all good up here.
I thought you were bringing me a screwdriver. I thought so. Yes, please. So we thought, what if we sent our student startups, our young entrepreneurs downtown, because that's where they want to be. They've got laptops. They can be down there 24 hours a day. They can be at the coffee shop, the bar, wherever they want to be. So we started doing that, and we now have $4 million student startups within a 2-block radius of Main Street. And one of those, you're familiar with Glow, we'll talk a little bit about that. They've got 20-some employees. They've brought an old building back to life thanks to the partnership with Mark Castleberry. And so anyway, we struck a deal with our partnership. We talk about relationships. And they gave us office space for our young entrepreneurs. That's where Glow was really born. That was their first real home. And they got in there without having to pay rent because every dollar counted. Now they're a multi-million-dollar company who partners with Sesame Street. It's crazy. So anyway, our student startups are worth over $21 million now. All but one have stayed in Mississippi. And I'm a big fan of economic development, and we need to have the Joe Max Higgins of the world that are chasing smokestacks and bringing in all these jobs. But we've got to capture the young and creative class of people. And so it's not either or, right? It's either and. I think Randy took my term that I call what I do boutique economic development. It's not a threat to the factory jobs, it's to complement those, right? But the boutique economic development, the result of that is also your future Rotarians and Kiwanis members. All right, they're going to be the leaders of the community. Hagan, who founded Glow, is the outgoing president of the Main Street Board here in Starkville. That's how it all works. All right, so let me run through some of the things we've done. This is our Entrepreneurship Center. I mentioned our combined value of our startups, $21 million. A couple of years ago, we decided to make an effort to push some of what we do downtown just to see what would happen. Dr. Keenum mentioned the idea shop. Who knows what a makerspace is? And this is going to be redundant for some folks who stopped by the idea shop yesterday. I apologize. A makerspace, you find in most universities, it's a place where you can go create 3D printers, CNC machines, laser printers, woodworking. We wondered what would happen if we put one downtown on Main Street, all right, and charge like a gym membership, $20-25 a month to have access to all this stuff. And we didn't know even if the idea had merit. But the day after we had our ribbon cutting, the story about the idea shop appeared in online editions of the Miami Herald and the Kansas City Star. So we thought we might be onto something. Little Stark Vegas was making the news in Miami. All right, so we talked about Glow. That's Hagen with the dog. Hagen interned at Tesla Motors, probably the first Mississippi State kid to do it. They offered him a full-time job at Tesla. We were so excited. He turned them down, walked in the East Center and said, I want to make plastic cubes that light up when you put them in a drink. And we're like, I don't know, Tesla, I don't know. Anyway, he did it, and they started making these drinks, and you can brand the cubes, and he had customers like Caesar's Palace, and thanks to the Mississippi Development Authority, our local casinos bought them. And then one day he got a letter from a mom with an autistic child, and the child fought her when she tried to give him a bath. She threw a cube in the tub, and from that came Glow Pals. It solved that problem. Glow really got on the map. How many folks know who the tipsy bartender is? Kevin Stafford does. Yeah, he's... All right. I saw a couple of hands like this. It wasn't, oh, I know the tipsy bartender. So this is a guy on Facebook, very charismatic, and he makes drinks, and he's got millions and millions of followers. He featured Glow on Facebook, and they got 9 million hits in their office at the partnership. Crashed their website. From there, they're invited to host a party at the Academy Awards. The stars are walking around with the drinks. They transition also to Glow Pals, and that caught the idea of Sesame Street. So now Big Bird is tethered to Stark Vegas. And thanks to Mark Castleberry, who did this wonderful building, we brought an old theater back to life. Imagine this huge theater on Main Street, dormant for decades. And now it is the home of Glow, a beautiful little gelato shop, Robbie's Gelato Shop in front. So when you do boutique economic development, you're doing community development, right? And it matters. And we see a lot of development towards the university, and sometimes it feels like it's a big vacuum cleaner, right? Just this huge behemoth that's Mississippi State. We can't lose sight of the real downtown in Starkville. And that's another reason we opened the Idea Shop. So here's what the Idea Shop can do. There's the Rex Theater, by the way, before and after. What a great addition to Main Street. All right, so we have our public makerspace, the Idea Shop. We have date nights. You can come in with your significant other, and instead of going to a movie, you can make a real fancy wooden pen or a cutting board or something like that. Next month, we'll have hundreds of kids in painting pumpkins. And you know what's great about that? They come in with their parents, and what do they do after they paint their pumpkin? They walk around Main Street, maybe get a bite to eat, do some shopping. It creates that churn that you want downtown. This is my personal favorite, the Talladega Gourd 500. I think, Paige, you came up with the name. Bring us your pumpkins. You're tired, you're weak, you're weary pumpkins. And we put a chassis on them, and we race them down Main Street. And we charge you like $100 to enter, and we give half of that to charity. And you would think, who would show up for something like that? And I go, I don't know. Look, now this is part of Starkville's Pumpkin Palooza, which is a great event around Halloween. But these folks stuck around to watch pumpkins just crash into each other. There was pumpkin carnage all over Main Street. It was great. These are the things that are hard to quantify, but that really matter. Folks walk away from this with a smile and hanging out downtown, and they might not even know why. They have a nice feeling about their community. So these are the things that are just as important as the big economic development projects. We do a lock-in for gamers. If we could develop coding in the state of Mississippi, and I know we've got the Coding Academy and we're working on it, these are great paying jobs. My coworker at the Entrepreneurship Center has a side business, and he's got to hire his coders out of Europe, and there's no reason we can't do that here. So we have gaming lock-ins to try to encourage that. Another of my favorites is last year we took a bunch of high school kids And this is during the pandemic. We brought them to the idea shop, and we partnered with Gibson Guitars, and they made their own Les Paul style guitar. It involves steam, it involves stem, all kinds of wonderful things. So we spent about a month there, the guys, with their rock and roll Gibson shirts. There they are working on their guitars. And then when they were done, we had a wonderful concert downtown. We put up a stage, lights, food trucks. And since it was outdoors, we could sort of sit apart from each other, and all the parents came, and we hired some pros to back these guys up, and they got to play the guitars they made, and we all came together on Main Street. This is our I Create camp. If you've got, and we can do this in your community, by the way. I'll be happy to talk with any of you about how we can export this to your community. 14-year-old kids didn't know each other from 3 different states came together. 14-year-old kids within a week had to form a company, elect officers, develop products, source the materials, manufacture the products, market the products, and then sell them at the end of the week at a pop-up shop. These kids didn't even know each other at the beginning of the week. And they worked very, very hard. And it was around Father's Day, so they called it Pop's House. And it was also during the World Series, so we had a mixture of the two items. So we had inappropriate koozies with stupid dad jokes on them. We had these cowbells made, and Dr. Keenum took one with him to Omaha for a big pep rally, and he was clanging away, and then the legal department at Mississippi State saw them and sent us a cease and desist because they weren't licensed. And we sent them the video of Dr. Keenum and said, talk to him. So here are the dad jokes. What do houses wear? A dress. Address. Yep, that's about what my daughter says when I tell these. All right. A little birdhouse you can punch out and put together with your family. We actually had some dry ice and a charcoal grill in our storefront window, which caused some alarm from people walking by, but it was kind of cool. So this is a pop-up shop. This is a rainy, rainy Saturday morning in downtown Starkville. Look at this. Look at the churn. That's our dean. This young lady painted this picture just hanging out at the camp. She didn't have an easel. She just sat on a chair holding the easel and painted this beautiful bulldog, which now hangs in the E-Center. The greatest part about this camp is when their parents came to pick them up, the kids were showing them the money. The kids get to keep the money from this. These kids raised $2,500 with their pop-up shop. So the parents were very, very excited about that. And now they're friends for life. All right, another thing we do is a Shark Tank. We call it the Innovation Challenge. All faith-based, homeschooled, private school, and public school kids get together, and we have a Shark Tank. We had about 70 teams enter the last one we did. And we take the finalists from that, we bring them to campus to our E-Center. We assign one of our students that has a startup to mentor these kids for 2 weeks. And then we have a big Shark Tank downtown. We invite the public. We have celebrity judges. And these kids actually win cash prizes for this. There they are at the E-Center. We give them a marketing class, a rudimentary business plan. Here's one of our winners. So we asked these kids when we're done, what was the most fun part of this whole process? And you know what they said? They said it was having a college kid take me seriously, right? So a lot of the times the win isn't the actual idea of the product or the money, it's the self-esteem. We had one young man wanted to put solar panels in a down jacket. He lived in public housing. He made it to the finals. His mom wouldn't drive him 4 blocks to the final pitch competition. So I had a little convertible at the time, so I went in, I picked him up early that morning. He comes out of the house looking at his shoes, gets in the car. You know, everything, his nonverbal shut down. He gets up, he pitches, he didn't win, but the feedback, the positive response he got, his shoulder, he gets back in the car, right? His shoulders are back. I let him pick the music. We turned it up to 11. I took him home. We drove into the neighborhood. People are running out to see what the racket is. And that kid got out of the car like a boss, right? So that's a win. When we talk about economic and community development, that's a win. All right, last thing we do. This is a national program you might be familiar with, Lemonade Day. We do it throughout the whole Golden Triangle now. We couldn't do it without our partners, Main Street and the Chambers. We had close to 300 kids sign up, and this is a curriculum that can be taught in the schools, and there's our baseball coach got behind this as well, and it's a great thing to put on TV. This is our little program director. The poor gal had to wear the lemmy head. Where's Lisa Klutz? She has a lemon head as well. So, and you all did a terrific job in West Point with Lemonade Day. Just fantastic. The kids can go get a micro loan, $30, $40 loan at the bank. They have to get a 5-minute lesson on credit, and they get a little certificate. They don't have to pay the money back. You know what? Most of them do. So that's a win. And then this is it, right? This is what you want in your community. You know, imagine dozens of these all over town on the same day. And when you ask, you know, sometimes it's hard to get the community behind what you're trying to do. On this one, just say, go buy some lemonade. That's it, right? So these kids, we tell them to do 3 things with the money: save some, spend some, and share some. So they all pick charities they want to donate to. You start them early, keep them there. Yeah, you can't beat this stuff. So it really poured down on Lemonade Day. I mean, it rained just cats and dogs. So we had like $700 because we want to make sure every kid gets some business. But we had a third of the stands we thought we would. So we were going to all these stands, and any kid that was brave enough to stand out in the pouring rain, we were negotiating. So how much is the lemonade? It's $1.50. I'm not paying $1.50. I'll give you $20 for a cup, but I'm not paying $1.50. Wait a minute, they got to go run and talk to mom because this doesn't make any sense at all, right? So we had some kids make some serious cash on Lemonade Day, and then whoever raises the most money in each community, we give them a brand new bike. And we could not do this without our partners. So I say all this to say that you can certainly do this in your community as well, and I'd be happy to talk about what we do. Dr. Keenum's gone. He is right. We're a land grant. We extend to the state line. The part of me that was and is a public servant would be happy to talk to anyone from any state, anytime, anywhere. If you're from another country, come see me. But if there's any of this you think might be helpful in your community, I've got some cards and we can talk about it. But boy, I got the best job in the world, right? But I still had to follow Marshall Ramsey. Anyway, we're going to take questions.
Yeah, go ahead, Sarah. A couple thoughts on what you said. Number one, as the father of 2 kids in college, I wish my college children would pay attention and respect me too. I can see how that'd be a big thrill for those kids. You know, you and I talked the other day about the whole concept of brain drain, and it sounds scary, I guess, when you say brain drain and our kids are leaving, but I think what you laid out there is a perfect recipe to be able to keep our kids in Mississippi. The one thing I don't think a lot of people understand about Mississippi, and it goes for Arkansas and Louisiana as well, but particularly here in Mississippi, we have a huge sense of place, and this is home. And it's like, people always ask me, you know, like all the people I know that live in Jackson, they're like, well, they're not from Jackson. They're from Mount Olive, or they're from the Delta, or they're from Tupelo, or they're from where their mother lives, right? So there is a huge desire for people to want to be home. And we have the power, as he laid out, to be able to keep our kids here. And, you know, so my question is this. As a guy who's been in the media, who's working with the university now, who's been in government and does policy, what are some things that we need to be doing here in Mississippi like this to be able to keep our kids here?
Well, I'm not an expert, but there are a couple of obvious things. One, we have to admit that there's a problem. I'm on a committee that plans an entrepreneurship conference with all the universities in the state, and we have the conference every year. And at a recent conference, it was prior administration, but pre-COVID, someone from the state got up and told all the folks in attendance that there was no such thing as brain drain. And before that person finished speaking, somebody that was on the panel sitting behind him tweeted out, the state doesn't get it. And I'll tell you this, from having to teach college kids, they're real good at spotting BS. Real good at it. And that was a real turnoff. Now, having said that, Philip Gunn and Delbert both have acknowledged it, and we have participated in a brain drain conference that they've had. And that's an important first step. And the other part is, I think each community has to frame who they are and what they're about. Right? You tell your story. Don't let, of course, I'm the evil me. I used to be in the evil media, right, the fake news. But you've got to define and frame your narrative. And I think that's what we're doing in Starkville. It's Mississippi's college town. This is who we are. And someone else isn't going to tell us who we are. We are going to say who we are and frame that narrative. And so I think that's important as well.
Yeah, I'm not just saying this because the mayor is sitting within distance of throwing her phone and hitting me with it, but
She's a good shot, too.
we are very blessed in Mississippi to have a lot of political talent on the mayor level here too. I mean, that's in our corner on that as well. You know, you mentioned Hagan and Anna, which they're wonderful. I got the chance to interview them, and I was inspired. I was ready to go work for them, although I'm too old. Technically, I think I probably aged out of their company, but they are doing amazing things on that. And I talked to Hagan, and Hagan's like, you know, we looked at Atlanta, we looked at Chattanooga, we looked at Birmingham, and we love Starkville, and we wanted to be able to keep people here.
There's another piece to that story, though. They were in their office at the partnership, and Dr. Keenum took it upon himself to cold call them.
Yeah.
Yeah, now think about that. He's a busy man.
Yeah.
There was a good chance they might not have been in the office. He cold called them and encouraged them to stay in Mississippi.
Wow.
And let me say something else about GLOW, and this is, I found this in all the young entrepreneurs that we work with. They don't work the way, you all know this, they don't work the way we do. Their value systems are different. I didn't mention that every GLOW cube that's sold, a portion of the sales goes to the Batson Children's Hospital because it matters to them. It's good marketing, but if you talk to them, it's in their DNA. And a lot of young people are like, we hear a lot about how lazy and what generation are we on now, Randy? You know?
We're on Omega, I think.
Let me tell you, the kids that
Or
walk
Delta, I can't remember.
the folks that walk in our e-center are carrying a full load at an SEC school. Most of them have side gigs, and they're also starting a business.
Yeah.
And they work all the time. It's not unusual for me to come to work and there'll be a kid asleep on the couch in there. Yeah. Why? Because he was selling to somebody in Europe and he had to be up at 4 in the morning and he just crashed on the couch. We have to adapt to them, and if we figure them out and embrace them and help create our communities around them, that's what's going to help ensure the future. It's not us old dudes.
Yeah, you know, well, and I got to admit, the last 2 years with the coronavirus and with everything that we've been through, I mean, I kind of laugh. This is probably the third time in a year and a half I've worn long pants, you know. But I mean, it's totally changed how we do everything. And they're really giving us a good example on how to be able to do that and be good entrepreneurs and to succeed.
Well, on behalf of everyone, thanks for wearing long pants.
Man, you are so lucky, trust me. I mean,
I speak for the group.
I haven't shaved in at least a couple of years. My legs are really hairy. But where do you think, obviously, I mean, if you're sitting in this audience and you're thinking, you know, I loved your presentation. That's really great. I love what you're doing at Mississippi State. I love what you're doing in Starkville. I don't have a college in my town. What are some things that I can do in my town to make it more attractive to be able, because I mean, obviously, if you have the right infrastructure, you like we've been kind of pointing to, you can work anywhere now in this thing.
Well, again, it's each person here is an expert on their community and what makes them unique, but it's also how you frame and sell that. Anyone here from Corinth? I still don't know what the slug burger thing is all about, but the fact that it's in my head tells me something. What is the...
My son lives there, and I don't really like them, so I don't know.
What is it, though? What is a slug burger?
I can kind of help on that. It was like back when people were eating dogs and cats in the Depression. They like mixed a bunch of things together to make a patty. Yeah.
Like with a cracker flour and flour.
Yeah, whatever they could catch, you know, that kind of thing. Yeah, they were a nickel, so that's why it's a slug. You know, it wasn't because they made it out of slugs, which that was my first question when I ate it, you know, on that. But yeah, but like you said, it's that whole sense of place thing that we have here. I mean, look what Tate Taylor's doing in Natchez right now. He's literally making it Hollywood East. I mean, yeah, Atlanta's that right now, but there's, you know, Atlanta's kind of grown to a certain point, and now Tate's creating this whole infrastructure. You know, number one, when he first got down there, he did have no internet service. So, I mean, things like when you can get fiber and things like that. I mean, I work from home now most of the time, and I have better internet at home than I do in the office. sort of thing. But what Tate's doing, that sort of thing, watch Natchez in the next 5 years and what's going on down there, for instance.
Yeah, I know when I became mayor of Columbus, base closure was a big deal. And you have some folks saying, well, don't worry, your base will never close, and, you know, but you still have to put forth the effort. And I was part of the team that went to the Pentagon, and they told us the issues they had with Columbus that we don't like to admit. And ours had to do with education. But we also had nothing in the community. The base is 6 miles from town. We had nothing in the community that showed we were an Air Force town. So I wanted to put up a static display, a jet. And the best place, I thought, in Columbus was at the intersection of highways 82 and 45, right? It's busy, it's out of our historic district. The highway transportation commissioner at the time said over his dead body, and then it turned out that the legislature disliked him so much they gave me the land. So I had the land, but I didn't want to use taxpayer money to put up the static display, so I had the steelwork donated, the concrete donated, and I needed a jet. And I have an air base right down the road, and the Air Force said, you got to go to the boneyard out in Arizona or New Mexico and get one from there. And I did the math on trying to bring one back on a flatbed, and it was prohibitively expensive. And then one day, the infamous Doc Vogelsong, who had been the wing commander at Columbus, was at the Pentagon, called and said, what's going on in Columbus? And I literally said, I need a jet. He said, I'll call you back. And he called me back that afternoon. He said, go out to the base and pick one out. True story. So I go out, that one. So we get this jet, and this is a reason, if you're in public service, you don't have to be elected, but these are the things that make you appreciate how good you have it some days when you have it bad so many other days. We had to close down Highway 45 to get the jet from the base 6 miles down to the location where we were going to mount it. So we shut the highway down before rush hour. It's like 5:30 in the morning. And the wing commander got a little four-wheeler, and I did, and the road was close, so we could just zoom all around. It was so neat. And as we start this slow procession down the highway, the sun's coming up, and what I hadn't planned on was hundreds of people on their own, spontaneously line the highway with flags. I mean, that's the good stuff. Yeah. And then we get the jet down there, and we finally get it mounted. And there was a colonel living in town who was the wing commander when they first commissioned that particular jet. And he had dementia, but I had him christen the jet. So we put him on a lift, and we lifted him up to the jet, and you could see it all came back to him right there. Right? So that's why we do what we do for moments like that.
You've touched on what Hagen and Anna are doing here. Obviously, Glow's an incredible story, but there's other startups that are in the downtown area that are doing some amazing things. Tell some of their stories too.
Yeah, in the old Liberty Barbershop, we have a startup, 3 African Americans, 2 young men, and a woman. The guy cuts hair. And apparently with African American and Latino hair, the follicles are thicker and the clippers heat up. Now, I say all this because I'm follically challenged, so you just have to take this on faith. So this guy, apparently he says that barbers have to have 3 of the same types of clippers to clip the hair. He's got over 100,000 followers on YouTube, so he's good at what he does. He teaches haircutting techniques. So he and his partner, who's an engineering student, developed clippers that don't overheat. And through the E-Center, our angel network, they got 6-figure funding. They're $1 million company. The clippers are in production, and he is going to sell them to this 100,000 plus customer base he already has. And they're just quietly sitting a half a block off Main Street.
You know, you've touched, I kind of joked the other day, I was like, man, I really need to come up and see y'all. With my career, I could probably use a little bit of help. But that said, the doors are open for people to come through the door to get help from y'all. And then if you're an employee or a student at Mississippi State, it's even sweeter. Tell us a little bit about that.
Student, faculty, staff get up to $7,500, no strings attached, to pursue their idea. And that's not a small amount of money, but it's not a big runway to launch a business. A couple years ago, we started our own angel network, so we can now offer significant 6-figure funding, and then we take an equity stake in that. But for non-students, or employees or staff, we have these MBA teams that can come to your community and spend a semester helping your mom and pops on Main Street do business research. A lot of that is coming up with a social media strategy. I mean, my kids live in that space. I have to work on it. Some of it's business plan. I see Chip Templeton here with the SBDC. We work hand in hand with him. He'll send us folks, we'll send him folks. But I have about 30 or 40 of these teams a year. We run them spring, summer, and fall, and this might be something you could take back to your community. I'll give you a card and offer it as a value added for what you do. Hey, we're Main Street, or we're the Chamber, and we don't just do business after hours where you get warm beer and cold appetizers. Look, if you come through us, we can offer you these great MBA teams at Mississippi State University because it's a partnership, right? And it might be a way to add some value to your organization, and happy to work with you. And what they do is a customized semester-long research project on how to launch a business. It could be, we had a custodian at Mississippi State that makes the best smoked chicken salad you've ever tasted, and she's selling it at farmer's market. Well, how do you get that in the store? Well, there are health considerations, labeling, you have to have the connections, and we can do all that. And again, sometimes it's a small win, but to that person or that community, it's a pretty big deal. One example, tornado, anyone from Smithville? All right, so you had that awful tornado, and it killed a bunch of folks, and one of the businesses there was Mississippi Farm Tables. And a preacher from Ireland had just come into that business. He was great at two things. He was great at making tables and drinking Guinness. I can vouch for both. But when the tornado took out the company, he didn't know how to get started. Our students did a marketing plan, got him in the Tupelo furniture market. He made a table for my office that he sells. He moved to Aberdeen. He opened up on Main Street, and people would come to his shop and then go mooch around downtown. He's now in Jackson, and he has grown. But he will tell folks, without that MBA team helping him with his market research, he wouldn't have been able to reopen. So I'm happy to discuss that with any of you. And we do work that program outside the city or the state lines. So it doesn't matter where you are.
You know, for 25 years, I've had the blessing of being able to go into the schools here in Mississippi. And I wrote a book called Banjo's Dream, teaching kids that they can do anything that they want to do. Because I think the one thing I've discovered about here, and I've lived in Georgia, Tennessee, Texas, California. I mean, I've lived all around the country, but you know, my 25 years here, I've discovered, I don't think per capita there's any more talented kids than in this area, and it goes for Louisiana and Arkansas as well. But I think the one thing is sometimes we don't have the belief that we can do great things. And one of the things that you and I touched on the other day when we're talking, and I really admire about what you're doing at the E-Center and what you're doing with the program, is you're teaching these kids that necessarily failure isn't a bad thing. It's like the whole grab the rope analogy I was using about, you teach them how to fail early when it's safe.
And often. And learn how to grab the rope and get back up. And talk about that, because like I said, you know, when you're trying to do a startup when you're 50 years old and you have a mortgage and you have 2 kids in college, it's a little bit harder to do. But when you're, 20 years old, it's a different thing. Yeah, well, we encourage them to fail, and that may sound contradictory for a higher education institution, but we have several students who have failed once, twice, 3, 4 times, and they are now, millionaires on paper because you learn a lesson. And there's a big difference between having a professor teach the theory of making a payroll and being 19 years old and having to make a payroll that Friday and not having the money. So that is a real life experience. We could talk to you about how to water ski, but you get out there and splat on your face 3 or 4 times and you realize the importance of getting up on your skis.
I know. I'm in the middle of getting my master's degree, and the professor said, "Can you zoom into my class?" Because I was doing it online. He said, "Could you zoom into my class? Because we're going to do a class today on what it's like to be laid off in the media industry." And I said, "Oh, gee, thanks. So honored that I can be your guy for that. I appreciate that." One last question. We're going to open up the floor to questions because y'all have got better questions than I do.
What time is it?
But
we're past time. You know that.
No, we got about 5 more minutes.
Really? We're between them and the screwdrivers, and we got 5.
Yeah, no. Trust me, I am not going to keep y'all away from any alcohol. I learned that years ago when I was playing in a band also. Let me say this, though, real quick. You talked about social media, and it sounds like social media is a really important part of the strategy for a lot of these startups, being able to tap into that and be able to use it correctly. Is that something that y'all teach? Because there's a lot of people here in their small town that, maybe their small town papers cut down to 1 or 2 reporters, and it's a little bit harder to get the attention, to get the media strategy. Maybe they don't get any media coverage anymore, and they need to get out there through that fog of social media out there. And I personally think Facebook is so you can hear the opinions on COVID from the guy that slept through chemistry class with you in high school. But what are some ideas that you've got on being able to help folks with the social media front?
Well, my advice is get a young person to help you. My goodness, we've got folks in our e-center that are so good that, I didn't know until fairly recently that you can get something like Hootsuite and manage every platform at once. It'll send them out how you want, when you want. So go to someone that knows the space.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
But that is something that our MBA team certainly do. But that's real
Excellent.
important. It's not just using social media; it's using it right. Last little anecdote for me: we had a 4-hour board meeting last Tuesday because we were trying to decide as a city how to handle COVID with our employees, and it was a parade of every opinion across the map. And then the media, the gosh darn fake news, actually some of them pushed out the wrong information, and then people were even now more foaming at the mouth. So I literally, word for word, wrote the policy that was most impactful, 3 bullets, and I said, here it is on my Facebook page, and I said, I don't want to engage on this on Facebook. Here is my email address and my cell phone number. Call me and let's talk about this. The third comment, after I said we're not going to comment, was, with all due respect, you don't tell us how to get in touch with you. Screwdrivers, who needs a screwdriver? I need
Yeah, I got a comment like that too, and I was like, hey, Mom, really, honestly, you can just call me. We got time, for maybe one? You want to go ahead and go to the screwdrivers, or you want a couple questions from the audience? Okay, they were real nervous about that. You were like, oh, well, maybe. Okay, we got time for maybe 1 or 2 questions. Anybody? Hey, this is, okay, go drink.
Thank y'all.
Thank you. That was great.